Indigenous people in the Northern Territory will be dealt with under a separate legal system under a controversial model being proposed as part of a new Aboriginal Justice Agreement. Matt Cunningham joins me now from Matt. Matt, oh gosh, I don't know how many times over the years, and I'm sure you've heard this proposed many a time. As I said, it's controversial, but what's different about this one? How would this system work?
Well, Janine, this is part of what the NT government are calling an Aboriginal Justice Agreement. Now, they've spent the past 2 years under the directorship of a woman by the name of Leanne Little, basically going around and asking Aboriginal Territorians about their dealings with the justice system. At the moment, there are about 1,700 people in prison here in the Northern Territory. We've only got a population of about 245,000, and of those 1,700 people, about 85% are Aboriginal. So they're trying to work out ways they can try and reduce that incredibly high incarceration rate. Now, as part of this plan, they've come up with this model that would include things called community courts. Now, as Leanne Little explains, these courts would see elders sit there with judges and help hand down sentences to Aboriginal people who are accused of different offences. Here's how she explained how it would work.
What it means is that there'll be respected persons assisting the judge in outlining what your sentence will be. Now, that may be that you have to work in the shop and that you've broken into and do work there. That might mean that you have to mow auntie's lawns. That may mean that you have to do other outcomes that are currently not on the table that actually impact on the offender's behaviours.
Another part of this plan, Janine, are what are being called alternative to prison centres. Basically, instead of being sent to a jail in Darwin or Alice Springs, an Aboriginal offender might be sent to one of these centres where a focus would then be put on rehabilitation. But there has been some criticism of the plan that's been put forward. Some people saying that what we're creating here are two separate systems that are based on race. I did put that accusation to Leanne Little. Here's how she responded.
Will you be creating a separate inequality in the system, though? Are we now setting up two different systems where there's one legal system that an Aboriginal person will go through and a separate legal system that a non-Indigenous person would go through if you're charged with an offence in the Northern Territory?
So my answer to that is we've currently got 85% of Aboriginal adults in the prison, almost at capacity. When that sits and reflects the 24% reality, and should even be less than that because of the percentage of Aboriginal people here in the Territory, then we can start to have a conversation about models and it being equal.
So, Matt, I see you raised the opposition, and as I said, this has been put forward many times over the years. What chance do you think it has now? Has opinion changed or not?
I think there's a chance the Northern Territory government, the current Northern Territory government, may enact some of this and actually put it into play. In fact, they've already started building the first one of these alternative to prison centres over on Groote Island, and they appear to be supportive of this community court model, although it would be interesting to see how it plays out. I think there are concerns, and they've been raised by people like Jacinta Price, about whether, say, victims of domestic violence would get a fair go in that justice system, and whether perpetrators of domestic violence may be treated more leniently. I think that is something that people would seriously have concerns about. One point that Leanne Little did make, and she said that Aboriginal people in the Northern Territory who are in custody are not in custody for traffic offences. They're not in custody for not unpaid fines and the like, as we've seen in places like Western Australia. She said that the vast majority of Aboriginal people who are in custody in the Northern Territory are there for a violent offence that's been committed against another Aboriginal person. So I think the Northern Territory government would want to be careful and make sure that people who are committing violent crimes against Aboriginal people, be they women or children or other Aboriginal men, aren't sort of let off easily, and they make sure that certainly justice is also served from a victim's point of view.
Well, thanks, Matt. And you